The Iranian regime has been sowing chaos and conflict in the Middle East for 40 years. The United States is by no means the instigator of recent tensions in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's hostile actions are an international problem that affect many nations. They include pursuit of nuclear weapons, a growing ballistic missile program, support for international terrorism, and assaults on freedom of navigation in the Arabian Sea, Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf of Oman, and in international airspace, as the world saw last week. But let me be clear, the United States does not seek war with Iran. In focused conversations with allies, I discussed the need to internationalize this issue by encouraging NATO allies and regional partners to voice their opposition to Iran's bad behavior and to help us deter further provocative acts by improving maritime security and demonstrating resolve. I appreciate the many insights I heard these last 48 hours. In response to requests for more information, I also directed my team to provide a detailed brief to my counterparts on the degree and depth of Iranian malign influence. The United States continues its maximum pressure campaign to deprive Iran of the revenues it needs to prop up terrorist organizations and to fund proxy groups. Our strategy is, at its core, an economic and diplomatic one. Again, we do not seek armed conflict with Iran, but we are ready to defend U.S. forces and interests in the region. No one should mistake restraint for weakness. Russia now has until August 2nd to decide whether to return to compliance. Should Moscow refuse, the INF Treaty will cease to exist. This is a dangerous and entirely avoidable reality, but Russia chose it by developing, manufacturing, and deploying the SSC-8 missile. This missile is proof positive that Russia has been non-compliant with the INF Treaty for several years, and prudence now requires our alliance to take steps to counter this new capability. Make no mistake, the U.S. will remain in compliance with the INF Treaty until its very last minute. We have since we first signed it more than 30 years ago. No mention of network security can be complete, however, without discussing China's attempts to gain dominance in the 5G realm. This is part of a persistent effort by Beijing to rework the international order to its advantage. We have seen this with China's militarization of global commons, its predatory economics, and its state-sponsored theft of intellectual property. NATO is awake to this threat, and we are adapting ourselves as prudence demands. It's hard for me to see a conflict between asking a country like Iran to follow the international rules of order when it comes to freedom of navigation, when it requires them to behave properly as we expect normal nations to do. I don't see a conflict in that. I think what they need the message is for Iran to stop these activities, to de-escalate from their side, and to meet with the United States and its partners to discuss the way forward. The President has been very clear. We will meet with them anytime, anywhere, without precondition. It's hard to get a clearer or more open outreach to the regime than we have done. And so I think that's what we need our European partners to message to Iran is that, look, the United States is willing to sit down and talk with you. You should come to the negotiating table and let's begin a dialogue. Let's have a discussion. Let's get off the military track. Let's get onto the diplomatic track.
Covering the de-ISIS session, if we could please meet just outside the Starbucks and we'll escort everyone over there. Thank you.